Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Happy holidays from the Follow the Brand podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, and today I come bearing gifts. One of the biggest hurdles for our diverse population of emerging healthcare executives is access to opportunity. Imagine a world where only 11% of the RN workforce is male. Only 5% of physicians identify as Black, and only 27% of board members at the top 100 U.S. hospitals are women. This is the healthcare workforce we know today. We believe we can do better. That's why my guest, Geoffrey Roche, is partnered with CommonSpirit Health to promote inclusion, diversity, and equity in healthcare through a $3 million scholarship program geared towards healthcare professionals who are looking to develop their skills, knowledge, and expertise through skills-based education and training. This scholarship offers experiential learning by providing access to top-tier institutions and relevant educational programs that will help professionals in health solve the diverse challenges they're facing. Geoffrey is an accomplished leader with steadfast commitment and passion for healthcare innovation, future-focused strategy, transformation, and workforce impact. His professional career has included over 9 years in hospital administration, where he served as a strategic advisor to the president and CEO and department director of various departments, including business development and planning, government affairs, community health, and public relations for a regional healthcare system in Northeast Pennsylvania. Geoffrey has also served in senior leadership roles at 2 academic institutions. He led strategic partnerships, organizational strategy, and business development for Lebanon Valley College and Harrisburg University of Science and Technology. He has significant experience creating high-impact partnerships. He is also an adjunct instructor of health administration in the MBA MHA program at Moravian University, serves on the United Way of Lebanon County and United Way of Pennsylvania Board of Directors, IU13 Board of Directors, Leadership Council for Moravian College, Patient Safety Committee for Wellspan Good Samaritan Hospital, and as an elected school director of Annville-Cleona School District. In this episode, Geoffrey Roche and I discussed the identified inequities among healthcare professionals and how he has committed himself as a healthcare leader to promote the Equity Impact Scholarship to create a more equitable workforce for minority healthcare professionals. As a son of a nurse, Geoffrey has been an advocate for the healthcare professional all his life, and he has been making a positive impact professionally since 2008. Let's welcome Geoffrey Roche to the Follow the Brand podcast, where we are creating a 5-star brand that you can follow. Welcome, everyone. and happy holidays. This is a great time of year. It's a time for sharing gifts. And you won't believe who I've got today sharing some wonderful, wonderful gifts for a lot of our healthcare executives, people that are aspiring to be healthcare executives. We're going to talk a little about what that gift looks like. Today, we've got Geoffrey Roche, and I know I'm pronouncing that right, Roche, Geoffrey Roche from CommonSpirit. He's also with Dignity Health, CommonSpirit Dignity Health. He's going to explain that whole relationship so you truly understand what we're talking about. And I want you to get your pens. I want you to get your pencils out. I want you to get in front of your laptop. I want you to take advantage of this opportunity. As we've talked about diversity, we've talked about inclusion, we understand the numbers are low, and we want to start changing that. We get it. We've heard the story, but now it's time to take action. He's going to talk to us about a program that does exactly that. Let's improve the ranks of healthcare executives throughout the United States, specifically within CommonSpirit, so we can grow as a community. So without further ado, I'd like to bring to the mic Mr. Geoffrey Roche.
Thank you, Grant, and thank you for having me. And it's a privilege to be here and certainly not only share about the amazing work that we do at Dignity Health Global Education as a vital partner with CommonSpirit, but also the Equity Impact Scholarship. So thank you.
Wow, the Equity Impact Scholarship. Now, you caught my attention. You reached out to me. I've been doing the show now, maybe, 6 months or so, been working with a lot of different organization when it comes to pipeline, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to executive sponsorship. And you said, Grant, I've got this program. You really, really need to know more about it. And I'd like to talk to you about your audience. So you talked to me about this particular program and just help me understand the objective for the CommonSpirit Scholarship. I want to say it like that.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, what's really important, Grant, is that CommonSpirit Health developed the Equity Impact Scholarship. And this Equity Impact Scholarship was designed entirely around the idea to bring more diversity, equity, and inclusion into our healthcare workforce, but not just within CommonSpirit. So when this was developed, the intention without all aspects was that, yes, there may be individuals that could apply within CommonSpirit, but it is also open to anybody in healthcare in the United States, as well as even globally for the certificates. But obviously, we're talking mostly probably to an audience here that in the United States. And so the goal is to create a more equitable healthcare workforce, because we know it doesn't matter whether it's in CommonSpirit, doesn't matter whether it's in a community health center in Florida, wherever. If we bring more diversity, equity, and inclusion into the healthcare system, we know our patients benefit. And that's what this is truly about. And we also know the staff benefits, the team benefits, the empowerment that occurs, and the culture. And obviously, as we know, it all comes back to our patients, patient safety, quality outcomes, you name it. And so this Equity Impact Scholarship is literally and figuratively for anybody that's in healthcare today, and also for individuals who aren't in healthcare but want to get into healthcare. And CommonSpirit specifically chose to, in this Equity Impact Scholarship, work with us to cover our 8 certificate programs, which are all skills-based professional level certificates with all nationally ranked nonprofit and academic institutions, of the like of Duke, corporate education, of the like of Arizona State University, Thunderbird, University of Arizona, Eller, executive education, Pepperdine University, etc., as well as our 3 degree programs, which, as an organization, we've been more invested truly in the certificate space because we truly feel that healthcare needs more skills-based, practical application of knowledge that can truly move and transform the healthcare workforce. But then in the degree space, we have an RN to BSM with Mercy College of Health Sciences, as well as 2 master's degrees, new MBA in healthcare with Northern Arizona University for just over $19,000. And then we also have a master's in global healthcare management with Arizona State University. The scholarship, of which, as we were talking about before, there's 1,000, a little less now because obviously we've awarded several scholarships. So we're probably right around 650 to 700 scholarships total left. So there's still opportunity, and there's opportunity between now and the spring to use all that scholarship up. And here's what I always like to share with individuals. If you're a leader, this is an awesome opportunity to look within your team and think of an upskilling, reskilling opportunity within your team. If you're someone that's, early in your career and you join us in this cause to advance equity and diversity and inclusion, this is an awesome opportunity to take that next opportunity of leadership, because these programs are all developed around that. I mean, when you talk about a certificate in healthcare leadership with Duke, you talk about a certificate in innovation in healthcare management with Arizona State, you talk about a mini MBA in healthcare, really neat. A mini MBA is a certificate, but here's the deal. You have opportunity to still articulate academic credit within that program. What's awesome about it in that grant is that when we developed the mini MBA with University of Arizona, that was developed with their business management school. So everything we do, all of our certificates have been developed with the academic partners, but also with healthcare experts. So we bring healthcare to the table through all of these programs. And in fact, when the programs are actually delivered, all of them are online. They're all asynchronous. They have healthcare leaders as the facilitators. And that is an awesome experience because you're getting the benefit of also having a facilitator who's worked in healthcare, still works in healthcare, and truly wants to mentor you. They're the ones that are actually grading. They're the ones that are, giving feedback to the students. And so obviously with certificates, it's really about you earning the certificate at the end after you've completed everything, but it is still a phenomenal experience where we truly can measure the skills that have been acquired through the journey, whether it's an 8-week or a 12-week program. And it's truly very impactful.
Let me ask you this, because that is the information that is people are looking for. How do I make that next transition? I just got into a role. Maybe I'm in a manager role. I want to get to that director role. Then how do I get from director to VP and that type of thing? That whole pipeline journey, it sounds like you've got it mapped out. You've got the right people that they need to talk to, get the right certifications. And then I'm wondering, once they complete the certification, do you open opportunities up? Are you looking at individuals and trying to get them placed within CommonSpirit?
So we don't necessarily, obviously when you look at what we do, our work really is about impacting each and every one of the students. However, here's where there's the key. Remember, our work occurs with throughout the whole country, we work with healthcare systems. So our work in terms of how we work with healthcare systems is very much about multiple ways. So if you look at our current programs, we may have, say, grant a specific cohort. We work with a healthcare system in Georgia, for example, and they have sent, over 40 nurse leaders through our certificate in nurse leadership with Duke. Now, in that situation, they specifically said, we've got 40 plus people that we want to send through that program because we're really looking at how we can further grow them. As a nurse leader within our organization.
I see.
Those individuals specifically came through that program as a cohort in that healthcare system, meaning they were a cohort together. Now, there are other situations where we will have students that don't necessarily come from a designated healthcare system and are actually in a cohort with healthcare leaders and healthcare professionals from across the globe. I can tell you, I have done I've completed now 2 of our programs. One I did before I was recruited to Dignity Health Global Education, which was our certificate in healthcare leadership. I did that obviously after having been a healthcare leader myself. And there was still a lot of aspects of leadership that I learned in that program. And I had the awesome opportunity of being in a cohort with individuals that were healthcare leaders at all different levels, hospitals, physical therapy, and all different locations. And so it's really neat from that perspective. So to answer your question, no, not necessarily. It's not a placement opportunity, but it's a huge networking opportunity.
Great networking opportunity.
Yeah. Awesome networking. And remember, the facilitator or facilitators, depending on the size of the cohort, are also either still working in healthcare or very recently retired. And so most of them have been CNOs, CEOs, chief administrative officers, you name it. Some are consultants. Well, guess what? They also are awesome for networking. they're also there for guidance and advice. And I know firsthand that because I've had the privilege of actually recommending some of our newest facilitators, some of them come from the largest healthcare organizations in the country, not just CommonSpirit. We have a brand new facilitator from UPMC, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And so awesome professional development and networking development opportunities.
No, I love the collaboration, and I'm getting the spirit of CommonSpirit, right? We're bringing together the industry to educate the best and brightest and give them opportunity, to give them experience, give them the education they need to succeed. Now, just make sure we stay on this course of topic. So I know you said we probably got about 700 at this time. You had about 700 more scholarships to give out. And they range anywhere from, it was $1,000 to, I don't know, $15,000 to $30,000. And they have to fill out a form. Can you tell us about the process?
Yeah. So yeah, they do range, and they basically range depending on program. So obviously the degree programs, certainly are more expensive. And so the scholarship opportunities are larger. The certificate programs, a little less scholarship, but still very, very significant in terms of making it very affordable and a huge opportunity to really try and create more equity in education to ultimately bring equity into our healthcare system. The process is actually really simple. So, if an individual went to just dhge.org /equity-impact-scholarship, they would have an opportunity to literally see a ton of information. And when they go there, they have an opportunity to read a little bit more about our programs. It walks through every program, all the certificates, all the degrees, and then it also talks about why we're doing it with CommonSpirit, and also why CommonSpirit had this idea and vision to do it in the first place. And we get this question all the time. Well, why would CommonSpirit, create this equity impact scholarship fund if there some ulterior motive here? No, there is not. This is not about fulfilling CommonSpirit's healthcare workforce. To be honest with you, the larger pool and share of scholarships today haven't gone to CommonSpirit workforce. By far, they have gone throughout the country. We have literally covered almost every state in the United States of America. And as I mentioned, even the globe, in multiple international countries. And I can't say enough about the leadership of Lloyd Dean and Marvin O'Quinn to specifically say, no, this is about transforming our healthcare workforce throughout this nation and the globe with a perspective of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so why that's important is that when a student applies, it is easy. All we're looking for them to do is, yes, they fill out a little biographical information, but most importantly, Grant, they have to do a personal statement. Right. And that personal statement is really important because it tells us who they are and it tells us what they want to do. And from a leadership perspective, it also tells us how they're going to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in their healthcare organization and the community they serve. And that is easy, 800 to 2,000 words. I can't tell you enough of the personal statements that our team has received, our scholarship committee has shared. So impactful. And so heartwarming because we truly get a glimpse of what our future of healthcare can look like if we do more diversity, equity, and inclusion in the healthcare system. We have been transformed on our end, on our team, when we have had the privilege of reading these, because we are seeing, to your point earlier, more and more younger professionals of immense diverse backgrounds, of all kinds of diverse backgrounds, LGBTQ plus coming forward and saying, if we create a culture where I feel that I belong, I can deliver better care. I can better communicate. I can excel and become that CEO, to all different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. And that has been, without question, not only the excitement that we have about this, but also what we know will be impact, which is why the name was created by CommonSpirit of Equity Impact Scholarship.
And I love what you're saying, because we've got to be inclusive of all people. And when people feel included, they give their full potential. And that's exactly what we need, because all people are affected by healthcare one way or another. So you must have all the perspective. I think it takes all of humanity to help cure humanity. So I love what you're doing. Now, I've got another question for you, because this is very interesting. because you've got to be able to tell your story in such a compelling way that's going to get your attention and get you, further along in getting a scholarship. And this is a branding show, and we definitely always focus on the personal story. So I want to ask you, if you could describe the problems in attracting diverse talent to the healthcare profession, how would you frame that?
Yeah. So, it's interesting from that perspective, because I will tell you in a very honest opinion that I strongly believe that our healthcare system, as it has been for so long, has been set up systemically to make it difficult to truly make this transition to have more diversity, equity, and inclusion in it. And the reason I say that is that at the core, even our education system, even at that foundation, has a lot of challenges when we truly talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so whether it's access, whether it's affordability, whatever it may be, we have to change that whole trajectory. And in healthcare, so many positions still today require a college degree. And I will regularly say, as an individual that has been and served for over 9 years as a director in a regional healthcare setting, that there are so many positions that should not have to require a college degree. Because I think we have to remember, we're sitting here in the Great Resignation, and we're sitting here at a really trying time in our healthcare workforce because of COVID, but also because of a lot of issues that have been there for a long time. And we are still having the same requirements and the same structural issues that we've had for so long in healthcare. And so the first thing we've got to deal with is the systemic issues. The second is we've got to create authentic pathways and pipelines from the K through 12 space into our healthcare setting. We have to make healthcare appealing to people. We all know that at times the media can be good, and sometimes the media can be a challenge. And, today you always hear the media talk about the bad going on in healthcare today. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. I'm the son of a nurse. I talk to nurses all the time. I love healthcare, but I know it's tough, and we all know it's tough. And here's what I want to say to anyone out there that's still on the front lines. You're our heroes, and we can't thank you enough for what you do. But the reality of it is that the best way to celebrate all those individuals, all those leaders, all those clinicians, all those professionals is for us to continue to develop pathways and continue to have the right pipelines. And we've got to do that with an equitable lens, meaning we may have to knock down some silos that have been there for far too long, meaning, do they require this? Do they require that? No, we can't in any way, at any time, compromise quality. We can't compromise, licensure and any of those things. But in areas where we can be innovative, we can be transformative, we can be creative, we need to be. And I will say that it is my humble opinion that, having worked in healthcare, been around healthcare as a leader now for my whole career, even though I've been in more in the academic setting now of healthcare, that we still, I think we still take a more HR view of how we handle the workforce. And I love our HR professionals, love the function, but we've got to take a strategic view of our healthcare workforce. And that will require us to view what we do with relation to pathways, pipelines, and the opportunity for us to transform it through the lens of healthcare strategy, through the lens of healthcare transformation, and through the lens of what we really need to do to ensure we have a sustainable market of workforce. And so it's a long way to say it's a challenge, but we've got to do it immediately.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star Business and Personal Branding Company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. please visit www.fivestarbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand. Well, I tell you one thing, Geoffrey, just in listening to you, your passion rings true. And I see that you recently just came over to Dignity Health, or I call it Dignity Health because you got these two names. It's CommonSpirit. You could probably elaborate a little bit more on that. But you've been an educator. You've been in healthcare for a long period of time. I didn't even know that you were raised by a nurse. So you've been very close to this. So with all that knowledge and everything that you've learned, how do you see this industry changing, like in the next few years, and how do you see yourself creating that change?
Yeah. So, let me just say this. I think our as you know, and all the individuals that have been around healthcare always know, healthcare is always changing, but sometimes the change is slow. And sometimes it's because of the regulatory, framework that healthcare, just happens to be a part of because of being one of the most regulated industries. With that said, we're seeing this with the Great Resignation. And we know across this country that if there's one area in healthcare that we have not focused enough on, it is succession planning, professional development, and leadership development. And so we have so many resignations today of CEOs and so many resignations at so many C-suite level positions. And we haven't really properly thought about who's the successor. And we haven't thought about, across the board, every organization is at a different place in time where they are with making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of that whole exercise. And it needs to be more than ever because we know that diversity, equity, inclusion, when done right, becomes the strategic driver that ultimately not only leads to better patient outcomes and better patient engagement scores and you name it, but also leads to better staff engagement and actually brings more people of diverse cultures and backgrounds into the organization. So why I say that is this. From my perspective, we have to be thinking about who the future leaders are of healthcare. I was fortunate in the early part of my career to have a CEO who did that back in 2008 and really through her entire tenure, of which went to about 2015. And so most of my time at what was then Pocono Health System was really under her tutelage. She was a nurse. And so I always joke with people that obviously I get along best with nurses. My mother's a nurse. And then I had a CEO who was a nurse who I adore to this day because she was a mentor first. And she always said it to me. My job, she always said, is to grow you, Geoffrey. My job is to impart in you what I have learned in 40 years because you become the future. We need more leaders like Kathy Cook, who was my president and CEO, because I think there's a little bit more at times in healthcare leaders, not like any other industry. There's a little bit too much ego and a little bit too much, I'm not thinking about the future. And, Lloyd Dean is a great example of a humble leader who, rose to the top, but never forgot those humble beginnings and serves with grace and serves with mission-based approaches. And those are the leaders that you want to follow because they're going to help you get to where you want to be. And so I share that we've got to really manage the generational differences within our healthcare system more than anything. I often say that healthcare is like a village. It's almost like a community in itself because you got so many aspects. You got food, you've got housing within healthcare, you got all these things. And so we've got to manage it like we do within a village. We've got to manage it like we do within our own families and think about what it is to build that future. And as part of that, we've got to better manage the generations. My fear, and the reason I bring up generational differences, is that for so long, baby boomers and others have been leading the healthcare systems. And in some organizations, they have forgotten that the future of that leadership are our millennials and our Generation Y and Generation Z in the future and so on, that we haven't cultivated all the different generations to make people feel like they belong and help them know where they have a place. And I'm just fearful that if we don't do that now, we're going to be in a situation where it will actually be worse than it is today.
Well, man, that is great information and reality check, right? I was at a seminar recently and talked about the generational gap in understanding. This is the first time, I think, in U.S. history, we've got 5 generations in the workforce. And the way that they put that story in a way of context, he rose his hand up and he said, what does James Bond look like? Right? And then depending on your age and where you grew up, James Bond looked like 5 different people. So is any of those depictions incorrect? No, they're all right, but they all have different personas, right? They had different skill sets. They had different way of doing different things. You have now. I've known all 5.
Well, you know what? My favorite was Sean Connery.
There you go. So I love Sean Connery as well. A lot of people love, and I actually like Roger Craig even today. I think he has a realism to him, which I thought Roger Moore was a little bit too unbelievable. That's just my particular case. It was just too much, but that's how I looked at it. But the whole point is that all of them are correct. We have to come together as a pool and talk about these things, because just because you see it a certain way doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just that's the piece of the puzzle that we need. It's part of the story, right? And the more of us tell that story, the more we can collectively manage everyone that as we move forward. And you brought up some things that I thought were so important, man. It does concern me because the latest generation of leadership, especially in the African-American leadership in healthcare, when you think about the Lloyd Deans who are about to retire, you start thinking about the Kevin Loftons who are retiring, and then just a lot of other people I can think about in the industry who have moved on because they have done their time, but are they being backfilled? What does that look like? What is that generation? What are the millennials? Are they ready? And if we have not prepared them for leadership, shame on us. So one of the questions I have again for you is that how do you establish yourself as that expert, as that leadership in the field of healthcare?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is that we've got to have more mentors that truly authentically believe in mentorship, encouragement, and truly building a culture of empowerment in healthcare. And by doing so, we'll have individuals that can, to your point, be prepared to step up. So, for me, it has always been about willing to take on new opportunities and new risks. And I only learned that by doing, from the perspective of being fortunate to have, very seasoned leaders that I've not only looked up to. Early in my career, I had a director of planning who I reported to, who had, over 45 years of healthcare leadership. And he was always someone that I just adored because he was an individual that had been a vice president at a very large system. And then he reached the point in his career and said, I don't want to be a vice president anymore. I'm going to be a director. And I remember asking him, I said, why? He said, I want less responsibility. He said, and I want to be able to help mentor the future leaders, because when I retire, I want them to take my job. And ultimately, when he retired, I was promoted to his job. And he taught me so much. And there was so much about the fact that not only did he teach me, but he would put me on projects to put me in front of the executive leadership team so that when it was time, they knew that it was going to be that perfect transition. And so my advice to individuals is, first and foremost, don't shy away. If I could tell you so many stories, and so many others have the same stories. At a very young age, I became a director. And there were people that doubted me. People who said, there's no way he can be a director. How is he a director? And I became a director in the last 5 years, and he's a director in his 20s. And my CEO said to me, Geoffrey, don't ever listen to any of them. She said, here's what you do. You work hard. You take on every challenge, and you demonstrate to them that there's no questions to ever be asked. And so I did. And so as I share with individuals, for me, being the type of person I am who loves to build relationships, loves to put forward strategic initiatives and advance them, For me, it was always because of my work was so community focused and so much about building up our community that's where I poured my heart and soul in, because I knew if we build up our community, we'll build up our health system, that I didn't have to worry about my internal people because they would see the work and the value externally, and it would take care of all those things. And so absolutely, we've got to have mentorship. I ask people all the time, particularly as a millennial myself, I ask individuals that are millennials, and I ask individuals that are Gen Y, Gen Z, and so on, do you have a mentor? Because if you don't have a mentor, we've got to fix that. And do you have a personal board of advisors, individuals that you can go to who are also going to check you? I have a phenomenal member of my personal board of advisors who's a president of a community college here in Pennsylvania, who also happens to be bald. And he will tell me if there's something that I'm doing wrong. And sometimes he'll do it in a manner in which I'm like, wait a second, are you kidding me? But then I'll sit back and I'll think, I am so glad you did that, because what you did for me is going to have such an impact on all the others that I have the privilege to work with. And so those are a couple of things I would say. And then the other thing I would just say is always be inquisitive. Always be thinking in a manner where you're thinking about something almost ahead of your boss or ahead of your leadership. Be thinking about what it is next, because if you do so, you're in a position where you can truly be innovative and transformative and authentic. And the other thing I should say too is about authenticity. I tell people all the time, we need leaders in healthcare more than ever that not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, but more importantly, do it with an authentic service at heart. Particularly from the vantage point of, if I, my hospital days, if I walked down the hallway and there was something on the floor, I didn't just walk by, even though I was not environmental services and we were a union environment. There were times I got in trouble because I was doing the job of a union person. I said, that's okay, because I prevented someone from falling. And so, those types of things are so needed. And I only learned that because I had such good mentors. And so now my job is to also pay it forward and help others, that are going to be after me.
Well, Geoffrey, this has been a phenomenal session, just chock full of gifts. We said this was going to be a gift show, and I hope a lot of people are getting the gifts that Geoffrey has put out there. The one gift that I got from you today is confidence. You exude a lot of confidence, and you are that shining light that we need as we move forward into this next generation. I feel that same calling. The reason I do the Follow the Brand show, I need to show our next generations with the visibility of first the current healthcare leaders, introduce them to the up and coming healthcare leaders, open those doors that have not been opened, be able to say the things that haven't totally been brought out on the table, that we can let's have an open and honest discussion so we can take this to the next level. Because I hear from the other, some other C-suite executives like, well, I'm not seeing the leadership skills to be able to promote certain individuals to get them into a position in which we can place them in our leadership cabinet or advisory board or things of that nature. And it's about experience and it's about exposure. And I love how you just said it. Have you developed an advisory board? Do you have an advisory group? Do you have a mentorship program? Do you have a pipeline development educational system? And a lot of times you hear like, what? That's you're right. We really don't. And then even if you do, how specific is it? Are you really speaking to that individual or that group of individuals who has historically been disadvantaged? And if you are or not, that's where you begin to start, because that's how we begin to make change happen. And when you see someone, especially like yourself, who, you have the prototypical, you're white male Caucasian, and yet you're taking up the mantle to help other diverse cultures, man, that's like, wow, that helps 135%. I love what you're doing. And before we take off, I'd like to give the mic to you to make sure that we've left anything on the table. If you want to talk more about the Impact Scholarship, yourself or the industry, the mic is yours.
No, Grant, I just want to, obviously thank you too for all that you do. The other thing I just want to say is that, at the core of healthcare is service. And so, when I look to the future of leaders, we've got to remember that this is truly about service, and we have an amazing opportunity as healthcare leaders to lift up one another. And there is nothing more important than a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusion, and a sense of creating more equity. And we know if we do that, and I say this, I always say to people, I'm a privileged white male. My journey into leadership was very different than sometimes, and unfortunately, oftentimes what it could be for someone that's just on color of skin different than mine. That's got to change. That is systemic, and that must change. And so my job has always really been to think about what I can do to help that. And I just want to, what I'd want to leave particularly is a message that if I can ever be of any help to anybody in any place to help make that happen through networking, through guidance, whatnot, I am here. We've got to be in it together, because literally lives are on the line in our healthcare system when we talk about the workforce challenges that we're seeing each and every day today. But it'll only get worse if we don't create this sense of belonging and this sense of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and do it authentically. Can't do it just because it sounds good. Can't do it just because it looks good. Must do it because it's about our patients, and it's about our staff, and also our providers. And so that's the final message I'd want to leave. And again, I just want to thank you for all that you do too, because it is so important that we continue to talk about these matters.
Well, thank you very much, Geoffrey. This has been a pleasure. Before I let you go, please give us either a LinkedIn profile, an email. How do people get in touch with you?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, anyone can find me on LinkedIn, searching just Geoffrey M Roche. They can also send me an email, just simply Geoffrey, GEOFFREY .ROCHE@dhge.org. Happy to connect on LinkedIn, happy to answer an email, and happy to talk further if I can ever be of any help.
Excellent. And make sure, and before we leave, because there at the beginning of the show you gave it, but give it now. How do they apply for the scholarship? Give it the URL.
Yeah, so I'll give you the shorter version. I know earlier I gave the longer version. If they go to just dhge.org, what's going to happen is at the very top, they're going to see something that pops up, and it's going to say, we've launched a $3 million equity impact scholarship in partnership with CommonSpirit Health with over 1,000 scholarships available. They click that, it's going to take them right there. So just dhge.org.
Well, get your stories correct. Make sure that it's stellar. Run it by an advisory group before you submit it, because that might be the difference between you getting access to this program or not. So take care. Everyone, have a beautiful rest of your 2021 as we get into 2022. And thanks for everyone that follows the brand. You can always tune in to all of our programs at www.5starbdm. That is B for brand, D for development, and M for masters.com. Thank you very much.